I produce and intensely rear game birds to be shot in the name of sport. It is a reality. I'm told by many animal rights groups that I rear them in cruel conditions. And this is why I partly applied to undertake a Nuffield Scholarship. I don't actually believe this for 1 second. If you'll actually look at my grey hair, it shows how much I worry about my birds. I wanted to improve the welfare of the birds for the short time that they are in captivity, but to increase profitability for the farmer by introducing new and innovative ways of rearing. I typed into Google lots of farming disciplines, and there was not much flack on there. You type game rearing into Google, and 2 out of 8 websites from anti-shooting organisations state that the birds are not protected under farming regulations or any animal welfare law. Animal rights groups have many concerns. The use of intrusive management devices has become one of their hottest topics. I do accept there has been isolated instances where the welfare of birds have not been considered paramount, but I think that's the case in any farming. However, every effort is made by most to promote the welfare of the stock. There is huge benefits to game shooting. 2 million hectares are actively managed for conservation as a result of shooting. The industry is worth £1.6 billion to the UK economy and provides 70,000 jobs. So how do we move forward and attempt to improve relations with such groups? Do we look at the equipment used, increase research, increase legislation, or maybe promote the food value even more? The answer is all of the above. Game farming is a very hidden business. It's estimated that the UK releases up to 35 million head of game per year. This, if you put this into perspective, that's about the same size as the UK poultry laying flock. The vast majority of these game birds are reared in very simple grass-based systems. Not only uneconomical, but they're not necessarily the correct system to support the best health and the best well-being. There's so much technology available in this day and age, why aren't we embracing it? Current rearing techniques are hugely inefficient. Temperature fluctuation, poor air quality, weather vulnerable housing, all increases mortality. But with rising feed and energy costs, game farming may soon be an unsustainable business. It is imperative that we move forward and utilise more modern techniques, reducing our carbon footprint, reducing our antibiotic dependence, and therefore producing a better quality bird. I am fascinated by the poultry industry's use of technology and their meticulous attention to detail, which is practiced routinely. I truly believe that there are many transferable aspects from the chicken industry that can be successfully integrated into the modern UK game market. I met a guy in Turkey called Andrew Mackenzie. We had some long chats, and after we came back from Turkey, he invited me down to his farm to have a look around his broiler breeder farm. I was astounded by the level of biosecurity he had in place. I do admit we don't have much on game farms, but he assured me that if these practices weren't in place, his business would not be there today. So my first poultry farm that my Nuffield journey took me to taught me that biosecurity should become paramount in all UK game farms. In every game farm that I've ever visited, I have never ever been asked to adhere to even the simplest measures of biosecurity. This has become my primary concern. I then managed to secure a farm visit with a very special man called Alec Griffiths. Aled has the largest egg-producing farm in the UK and is passionate about cage rearing and laying. I entered one of his units and it was simply mind-blowing. I've never been in an egg complex before, and if you enter one, it's just so tall. I was pleasantly surprised how these hens they were so happy. They looked happy, they were content, they had a lot of room, not what you imagine a battery unit to be. I came away with such a buzz, convinced that this was the way to have all my pheasants. All I could see was cages of pheasants. This is what, however, after visiting, I went to Germany and visited Europe here, and after a few number of crunching sessions later, it became apparent that it just wasn't financially viable. Although Andrew Mackenzie's broiler breeding farms are using, his birds are loose in large sheds with roll-away nest boxes, and they're artificially lit and they're out of the elements. And it's a lot cheaper way. I'm convinced that is the way to have your breeding pheasants. Next, I travelled to France. France export a vast majority of their eggs, chicks and poults. A huge percentage of them, the majority, land on English soil. The UK imports around 90% of red-legged partridge and about 40% of pheasants. Why is the UK so dependent on France? Why can't we buy British? France is blessed with warm, earlier weather. That means that they're able to produce eggs sooner to optimise an early demand from England, from Britain. Investment over the last 15 to 20 years has been substantial in comparison to the UK. In outdoor cage breeding units, which are not only far more efficient, but their disease control can be far better managed. In addition, France has little opposition from animal welfare groups. They also have very tight closed flocks, and this has limited the gene dilution, therefore giving the birds a far superior reputation. After speaking with UK game farms and shoots, it's the common belief that these French birds not only fly better, but are stronger and a better quality chick. Having bought a lot of French chicks, I'm very, very sceptical about that one, just purely because of the distances they have to travel. I believe that the UK can compete and produce high quality eggs, chicks and poults ourselves. February arrived and it was time for me to leave my wife and child and travel to the US for 5 weeks. I met with a guy called Bill McFarlane, the Golden Game Farming. Bill owns the largest game farming facility in the US. I needed to discover how he was able to rear game so successfully. So I put my wellies on and worked alongside some mad Mexican employees, which enabled me to get hands-on the American way. It was very strange to be creating pheasants in minus 10 degrees, surrounded by 4 foot of snow, when usually I'm sweating, I'm pouring sweat. The US has such cold winters and hot summers that disease struggles to survive in such extreme conditions. I asked Bill McFarlane, what precautions do you have with hexameter, our main threat? He'd never experienced hexameter or even heard of the disease. I was absolutely speechless. We both agreed that it's purely down to the climate. You just can't survive in these extreme weathers. I travelled 10 states and met with some amazing people. Game farms must move with the times and embrace technology by finding suitable alternatives, which are both financially viable and designed specific to the semi-wild species of game birds. Biosecurity must be improved tenfold. When mass-producing game, the use of wire floored facilities, wherever possible, can reduce disease dramatically by eliminating contact with their fecal matter. This can only improve welfare, reducing antibiotic use, and with the addition of enrichment, such as perches, shelters, scratching pads, the birds' time in captivity will improve. I'd love to have access to vaccines, but at this point in time, the game industry is considered very small and large companies will not invest. I would be happier if legislation was tightened, believe it or not. However, many game farms would not agree, which I believe fuels the fire of the animal rights groups. Due to the behaviours that game birds exhibit, natural behaviours, it would be far greater an issue if intrusive devices, anti-pecking devices, would be absent. However, the products currently available are far kinder in this country than in France and America. Their anti-pecking devices are so much more intrusive. We need to eat every single bird shot to justify our sport. 67% of the general public would accept game shooting as long as every bird can be accounted for. The UK's ethos in game shooting is unique. No other nation allows the birds as much freedom following release. We are a lot more sporting than any other country. And so to move forward with new ideas, but most importantly, aiming to prevent problems rather than relying on a cure. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my kind sponsors, Alan and Anne Beckett, who have been a constant support throughout my study. Their commitment to Nuffield is beyond the call of duty, and I am proud to have them as my sponsors. I'd like to thank my wife for supporting me throughout my Nuffield journey, and I'd like to thank everyone here for listening to me. Thank you.